to ask. That was it.
Okay. It's because I have the immersion with the beginners, and I don't put the immersions in YouTube.
No, try to ask them. Maybe they will like it. I guess it's a nice experience for them. So try to ask them. Maybe they will try to be live. Maybe they like. I don't know. Depends on the person. Sometimes they like, sometimes they don't. Depends. So let's go to the questions. Now we're live on YouTube. I will explain a few things about Talk and Talk before we start. So we are a conversation platform where you can come here and talk in a lot of languages. We have English, Spanish, Italian, French. And today we're speaking in English about being emotionally mature. So let's go to the first question. So Katiana, how would you define emotional maturity and what does it mean to you personally?
I think this topic it's interesting because it's difficult sometimes have the emotional stability and maturity because it's not the kind of feelings who the people develop during the life, and for me is the things who defines the emotional stability. It's who you do in front of the problems. Because, for example, if everyone have problems in your life, no, and the form who I react, a forma que eu reajo in front of these problems define the many different things in our lives. I think emotional stability it's kind of these things who I react in front of the problems, because it's a decision. I decision resolve the problems or create more problems. I choose cry or I choose fight. It's a choose sometimes, but it's not only a choose. I think it's bigger than this.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you choose what you inside didn't want to choose, né? It's complicated because we never know what is the right thing to do. And then we need to guess. But the one thing is real. We need to deal with the problems, right? And how you deal with them is complicated to choose how, né? Como que você vai lidar que é complicado. That's true.
Yes, I think it's the form, it's the key of the success, no?
That's true. I agree with you. And Katiana, what are some signs or characteristics that indicate someone is emotionally mature?
I think it's because sometimes it's very easy for one example. I think the form who I react in front of one problem tell me about my maturity. For example, and it's common, the kids don't have the emotional maturity. I think the brain of the kids develop until 20 years. I think it's almost the finish of the maturity emotional. I think it's behind 20 years. But for example, when I see one adult react like a baby, for example, it's very common in the millennials now. If you have a problem, go to the internet and public one thing in the internet, and don't resolve the problem. Involve many different other people in these things, jogando no vento o problema, mas não resolveu. It's so common. I see the LinkedIn, the position of the people in LinkedIn. I see, and I think this person, it's not an emotional maturity. It's not a maturity, because I see many millennials in the LinkedIn public things, and I speak. Never in my life I put this person in one team, because if you it's probably this person have problems.
Yeah. And for you to hire someone, you need to know that this person is able to deal with the problems that will appear at work, right? And then if you see on a LinkedIn profile or something that this person is not able to deal with her problems, it's complicated. Mostly the professional problems, because like personal problems, it's different, but professional, you need to know how to solve so you can be hired, right? If you don't know how to solve the problems, you won't get a job, right?
Yes.
I wouldn't hire a person like this who don't know how to solve their problems at work. And we need to know that. That's true. I totally agree with you. So let's go to question number 3. Can you recall a specific situation in your life where you demonstrated emotional maturity? How did you handle it?
I remember it's a long time ago, I think 10 years ago, when I'm a boss in that time, and I react very emotion with very emotion in that time, and now probably I react very different, because I understand more about feelings and how important it's a stability in the companies, emotional stability in the companies. But in that time, I remember the other manager put my one people in my team very. Acabou com o menino da minha equipe. I don't remember how do you say these things in English, but I go to this manager, because in that time I am a boss too, and I speak a lot. And I remember, yes, we in this situation, I remember we have the third person is the other boss and speak with us. No, it's not okay. This kind of conversation between you and this guy, this man, it's wrong. Put these questions behind you, para cima de você, but don't use this kind of voice of a fight, because don't resolve a problem. And that time, I think I'm a very emotional, instable. I have instability emotion, because eu peguei o problema para mim e resolvi com emoção. And now I don't do this kind of things, because don't resolve it, because you stay in the same position of the other people. And in this kind of situation, you need to act different.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's more complicated, mostly because the problem was not yours, right? It was someone else's problem. Then you grab for you try to solve it, and it's not the best way to solve the problem, right? So you try to solve it in a not a good way, and then I don't know if you suffer consequences or not, but probably you suffered, because it's complicated when we deal emotionally in work. Né? É muito complicado se lidar com emoção no trabalho. It's hard. We can't do that. And then I guess it's a situation for you to be in the job market. You need to be really emotionally mature, because if not, you get crazy. You want to cry. You want to discuss. You want to argue, and you can't do that. You need your job, so you can't. And then it's complicated. You need to put your emotions and your feelings inside you and let them there. Você tem que deixar lá dentro, não pode botar para fora. Because then you
it's very crazy, Jill, because in some situations it's very difficult because, for example, I am a safety and health engineer. It's very common. I have accidents in the places where I work. Now I don't, because now I work with projects, but in the past I have difficult situations. For example, the people lost the fingers in the places, or broke the maxillar, I don't remember, the chin, because the machines, it's very strong and so in dangers. And I remember one difficult situation with a mechanical, and this mechanical shocked with a tree, but in front of one tree. And when I go to the house and stay in front of this family, because have 2 kids, 1 wife, I remember I cry, because it's so difficult for me, because this father improved the things in this house. It's the only money in this house, and this man stay in the hospital for 6 months, and after this don't return to the job. And every time when they need explain about this accident, I cry, because it's so difficult for me put the emotions in one part of my brain and the rationality, because I stay in front of sometimes 20, 30 men, and the situation is similar. And I explain about this accident, and sometimes the people, it's like a frozen. And yes, because when you work in this kind of area, everything is very dangerous in oil and gas. And sometimes I think I'm how do you say? It's not emotionally, but eu procuro dar o meu melhor. E naquela época eu via que as pessoas negligenciavam a própria segurança. Eu olhava aquilo e falava assim, cara, enxerga, o outro cara tá lá no hospital, na cama do hospital, tipo, acorda. I remember this, and because of this, sometimes I don't have plans for return to the safety and health area, because for me, I have difficulty with this, with kids, with family, with people in the hospital.
It's a complicated area, right? You need to explain the situation to the family. Let's say the guy is not good. I guess people. I don't know, because in this type of situation, we have 2 types of people, né? Engineers, the ones that know a lot about things, and mechanics, like workers, normal workers, né? Tipo, my boyfriend, he's an engineer, and he likes to call them peões, né? But them, it's like people who work, normal workers. And sometimes, most of the times, this type of people, they don't know the importance of safety, né? Eles não sabem a importância da segurança.
Yeah.
They say they have experience and then they can do the way they want. And sometimes it's not like that, né? Na maioria das vezes não é assim que funciona. Se você tá lá, tem que seguir a regra de segurança. But some people, they don't follow it. I don't know why. They underestimate the thing. So let's go to question number 4. What steps do you take to manage your emotions effectively in challenging or stressful situations?
Strategy, specific. Is the question number 3?
4.
4. What steps do you take to manage your emotions effectively in challenging or stressful situation? I think brave. it's necessary. And sometimes when the situation is very difficult, walk into the other place, because sometimes it's necessary, because if you stay in the same place, you're kill the other person. But and I think it's with the rationality, it's more easy for everyone do this kind of thing. For example, I think walking, and after this thinking, and after 30 minutes react, because it's more easier. I remember one tip of my last boss speak with me, and this man said in that time, if you very angry with the person, write one email and put everything for outside you. Close your computer, walk in or go home, and in the other day, probably the situation needs resolved, because you are put your feelings outside you. Don't react, don't send this email for this person, and your feelings it's going.
Yeah.
And yes, I believe in these things, because sometimes it's necessary.
I
Put
guess
your feelings outside you.
all the times you get stressed with someone else, you need to put outside. Você tem que pôr para fora. Put out your feelings, né? Somehow, even if it's an email, né? De algum jeito, botar para fora.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess it's a little bit different when we're dealing with kids, né? Com criança é pouco diferente, because like you can't like I don't know. I guess it's different when you're dealing with children, because they don't know a lot of things. They don't know that maybe they are putting you. You have a kid, you maybe know that, but I guess they sometimes they don't know that they are making you feel angry, so they just continue to do that, and then you need to explain, no, you can't do that, and you could get my point.
One thing who I speak with my daughter, every time I speak with my daughter, and I said, it's a problem who it's possible for you to resolve, or it's a problem who you need your mother or your father do for you. And every time I speak with my daughter, because it's very common, the kids react very angry in many situations. And for example, if you have this kid have it's starving, tá faminto, or with sono, with need sleep, they react it's emotionally all the time. And I explain with my daughter every time, it's possible for you resolve this kind of problem. You need you're asking for your father or your mother do something for you. And now my daughter understand more about this. And I think it's because my husband and I improve the emotional skills in my daughter, because it's so necessary.
Yeah,
it's not easier. And now I speak, I am understand you in a frustrated situation, but the life it's difficult for everyone. You have the other kind of frustration situation. Probably in few minutes you don't feel like similar. You need understand about, but it's every day.
Yeah. I know it's complicated. Children, they are developing, right? So they are complicated. And I explain these things to them, that they need to be emotionally mature too. They need to know how to manage their emotions. It's difficult because they are learning to do that. And it's hard to learn. Even us adults, we have some trouble learning that. So imagine for them, who everything is emotional. I guess nothing they think rationally when we are kids. We think more emotionally all the time, right? So I guess they harder for them.
It's so difficult sometimes, no?
Yeah, I can imagine. And Katiana, how do you differentiate between reacting impulsively and responding thoughtfully when faced with emotional triggers?
The question number
Number 5.
between reacting impulsive and response. What is trolleyful?
Thoughtfully, like when you stop and think what I'm going to do. And impulsively is when you act by impulse. Like, how can you choose when you're going to react impulsively and when you're going to stop, think, and then react when you're faced with emotional situations?
This question is so difficult because sometimes, for example, now I have maturity, and in many situations I stopped, go walking and do the other things. But in the past, I'm not like this kind of person, but I react. And I think it depends of the situation, because your brain reacts with emotions, hormones, and other things. And for example, I don't imagine if a man with a gun in front of me, because I don't pass for this kind of situation. Eu nunca fui assaltada. And I in my brain I said, no, I have my cell phone and do this, man, it's okay. But for example, I don't know what I react in this kind of situation, because it's not depend of me. I think it's depend of the situation. And I remember 15 years ago, because I'm an old person. I almost 40 years.
No, you're
and
not.
and now I react different. But I remember a bus driver arrancou aquele negocinho do meu carro que você enxerga, o retrovisor. And in that time, eu saí do carro e bati na porta do ônibus. And I said, if this man have a gun, I'm not living more.
Yeah.
It's an impulsive reaction, but I don't imagine react with this kind of feelings. It's the emotion. It's in this situation, because in many different odd situations, I never do these things. It's very impulsive, and after a few minutes, I stopped my car and I think, no, I react like a lion. It's not normal. But I think it depends of many different things. For example, I remember one situation with my daughter. It's very common you stay in pula-pula. I don't remember pula-pula in English, but I put my daughter in this place, no pula-pula, and I stay in front of the pula-pula comprando caldinho. And we have, I think, 10 minutes. And I looking for my daughter, and I thinking, tinha uma mulher no pula-pula, one woman, and control the things in the pula-pula, and I pay for my caldinho, paguei pro meu caldinho. Quando eu virei as costas, a mulher botou a minha filha para fora do pula-pula. Vou explicar em português, porque para explicar minha reação. A minha filha tinha 2 aninhos naquela época. Não quero nem falar para você o que eu fiz.
Mas por que ela tirou ela do pula-pula?
Para botar outras crianças, para circular o dinheirinho dela. Ela não pensou que ela botou a criança no chão, a minha filha não me viu, saiu andando no meio de um monte de gente. Eu fiquei desesperada, porque eu não vi minha filha no pula-pula, não vi minha filha na região onde eu estava. Mas eu botei a mulher para baixo de não sei o que. Eu falei, sua irresponsável, fez um barraco. Que eu nunca faço barraco, eu sou uma pessoa Sou uma pessoa muito da paz. Eu evito a guerra, assim, eu dou uma boiada para não entrar na guerra. Mas, assim, nesse dia, eu falei assim, gente, literalmente, eu agi igual uma mãe leoa. Aí eu falei assim, você vai achar minha filha agora, que não sei o que, eu vou chamar... Aí fiz um barraco. No final das contas, eu achei minha filha em 2 minutos. Mas eu achei a atitude dela super irresponsável. As outras mães ficaram revoltadas também. Falei, você só está olhando seu dinheiro. Falei, se fosse, você está tomando conta de... Menina, mas eu fiz um barraco, mas um barraco. Que nunca na minha vida eu pensei que eu ia fazer um negócio desse. Porque eu achei muita irresponsabilidade, entendeu? I think it's the a emoção depende da situação,
That's
entendeu?
true.
Eu acho que é só because, for example, now I'm a kind of person. I think I'm very stability, emotional stability, but if one thing involve my daughter, for example, I think I am like a lion, uma leoa, because if involve my daughter, I think I lost the rationality sometimes. I think every mother reacts similar with this, because if involve your pro, if involve a sua prole, it's like a lion, I think.
My mom says the same thing. Ela fala a mesma coisa. But I guess when I was a kid, she defended me a lot of times, like really hard, because I was a kid that I was kind of dumb. I don't know how to explain that. Like, I accept a lot of things. So, like, in school, the kids were like laughing at me. I just accept, I didn't care. Eu era completamente boba, sabe? Eu não ligava pra nada. E aí, às vezes, me zoava na escola e tal, minha mãe ficava sabendo, e ela ia lá, reclamava. Aí aconteceu já várias coisas que ela ia lá, reclamava, e eu não tava nem aí. Mas ela sempre me defendeu. I guess moms, they're always like that, né? They want to defend their kids because they think their kids are, I don't know, defenseless, né? Não sabem se defender, né? And then I guess they need to be there to defend their kids. But I didn't know, I wouldn't imagine that you created this thing because of Pula Pula. But makes sense because it was irresponsible from that lady. That's true. And Katiana, can you describe a time when you had to set boundaries in a relationship or friendship to maintain your emotional well-being? How did you navigate that situation?
This question is so different. Is the
It's
question
big. Question number 6.
boundaries? What is boundaries?
Boundaries são limites.
Tá. I think it's this kind of situation. It's more easy when you are teenagers. Sometimes I see the teenagers have a very difficult for put limit in with the friends, but I think it's necessary put the limits in the relationship, like friends, like husband, every time in our life. And I think it is say no. Many persons have difficult for saying no. Now I don't have this kind of difficult more, but in the past I have. I'm not. Sometimes I remember I do many things in the job, and now I don't do more, because I think sometimes you need to say no. I finish my time. I finish my schedule 5 p.m. for example, and I don't work more. I work 8 hours during the day, and I say no, and I put limits, because it's important. You have life, you have your family, you need to have do attention with your family. And I think it's the answer for this question. It's put limit in the relationship.
Mhm.
And say no. Sometimes it's necessary say no. I think the Brazilians have a problem for say no. And because I see like Americans, for example, say no and don't have problem with this. And it's okay. Sometimes it's rude, but don't have problems for saying no. The Brazilians have problems for these things. Sometimes I see the persons, for example, person ask you, go to the barbecue on the Saturday, and the people, yes, yes, but in your hair, in your heart, in your mind, say, no, I don't, I don't, I don't have plans for this. And with the other, the Americans don't have problem for saying, no, I don't go here with for your barbecue. I have other kinds of plans. And I think it's about culture too. It's culture too. But put limits and say no. Sometimes it's so necessary.
Yeah, that's true. I totally agree with you. And I guess in your work is even harder, right? Because you're working, you need your job, and then how can you say no to your boss? It's more complicated. But indeed, in relationships, when you are a teenager, you accept a lot of things from friends that you don't want, and it's hard. Because mostly when you are a teenager, you want to fit, né? Você quer se encaixar. And then you accept a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't want, que talvez você não ia nem querer, né? But that's life. But I totally agree with you. You need to set boundaries. That's true. And Katiana, how do you approach conflicts or disagreements with others in a way that promotes emotional understanding and resolution?
The question, nossa, this question it's so, how do you approach conflicts or disagreements with other in a way that promotes emotional understand and resolution? No, this
Hard,
question,
right?
yeah, this question is so difficult. I think when they have when they have a problem, I sometimes you need uh, be a negotiator. I don't remember negociador. It's negotiator or no?
Dealer.
Dealer. You need to be a dealer between two persons, and sometimes it's very difficult because everyone put your things in the first in the first step, in the first in priority. And it's dealer this kind of things, it's difficult. And this, you need to be very focused, calm. And I think we need to be a maturity person. It's so difficult. It's so difficult.
That's true. It is. It is so difficult. I guess this is one of the hardest things in life, to approach conflicts in a way that you can understand others and like put your point and a lot of things, né? É uma das coisas mais difíceis da vida, você lidar com conflito e aí você tentar entender o outro, aí você querer falar o seu ponto também. I guess this is really hard because maybe sometimes you can be rude, né? Às vezes você pode ser rude com as pessoas, maybe get angry, so it's really complicated. Really complicated. And Katiana, what strategies do you use to practice self-compassion and self-care in your daily life?
Selfie.
Compassion and self-care.
I think self-care is when eu cuido de mim, self-care, and self-compassion. I think no, this question, this immersion, it's deeper now for
Yeah, yeah,
7
I like
a.m.
those topics.
Yes, I now I understand the importance of one steps after passo de cada vez, one step after one step. I don't. It's not possible for me do everything every day. I choose many different things, and I think it's a kind of self motion, self
Compassion.
compassion. Yes, I think because sometimes the people as pessoas querem fazer tudo ao mesmo tempo, nada acompanha. And sometimes I see as pessoas se cobram demais. And it's necessary have time for understand. It's not possible for everyone do everything. It's I think it's a kind of self compass. If I don't do English today, okay, I do tomorrow. I do in the Friday, okay, but I don't not I'm not a guilt person because of this. It's this kind of feelings. It's so common between the mothers because the mothers now work and don't have time for go to the gym, don't have time, for example, for stay with the kids because need work. And now I understand more. I am a melhor mãe que eu tento ser, que eu posso ser. And I'm very happy with this because in the past I'm frustrated because I'm working I'm work a lot, and sometimes I don't have it a big quantity of time with my daughter, but I have quality. And I think this is a kind of a self compassion, and it's a thing. And self care, I think it's when you have a time for you, for example, for do exercise. It's necessary. It's a kind of self care. For me, it's a kind of self care because, for example, my routine. It's crazy because I have 6 meetings during the day, and in the end of the day, I stay I stay at home and don't put my feet outside my house because it's my moment, and I'm not have a initiative for go to the gym or running or the thing. And I do these things. It's the first thing I do in my life every day. I wake up very early, I pray. After this, I'm running or go to the swimming pool. It's my kind of self-care. Eu cuido de mim essa 1 hora entre 5:30 e 6:30. It's unnegotiable. Como que é? Inegociável.
I guess it's negotiable.
Yes, it's my time. It's and the English time, because it's 7 and 8 or 8 depends of the day. I do 1 hour with English between Monday and Friday.
Perfect.
It's my
That's
self-care. But I think other kinds of woman, for example, the safe care is put many different kinds of things in your face or do other things.
is how they like to take care of themselves, right? It depends on the person. Like, for example, my type of self-care is to do things in my hair. Like, I really like to do like hidratação, esqueci como é que é hidratação. And then it relaxes me. So it's my type of self-care. I do it in my house, like I take care of my hair. I really like. And then that's what I do to take care of myself. Or I bake cakes. That's what I like to do to relax. That's my type of self-care. and it depends on the person. But I totally agree with you. We can't feel guilty because we are not able to do everything all at once. It's impossible, né? É impossível você fazer tudo. Então, separar um tempinho para fazer cada coisa. Even if it's small, it's a short time, I think it's important for you to separate it to do the things that you like, right? It's important. So, Katiana, because of our time, let me stop the live on